What is today? It's the 15th. Happy June 15th. Happy post-lunch. You know, they strategically put me after lunch to give you a little punch of energy. So what I want you to do is just stand up really quick. Stand up, take a stretch. I can honestly say I've never been introduced that way. I kind of like that. The sound effects.
Didn't quite clear.
Great. Take a stretch, and now you're going to sit down and learn lots from me. That's right. Where do I point this? I point this way. Yes. There we go.
I literally tripped over a backpack.
I honestly am so happy to be back in Lima. My first time here was 5 years ago. When Jessica says jump, I say how high and with which shoes? I just love her. I love all of you. It's been, I know a lot of speakers feel this same way. To be back on stage after 2 years of strangeness feels amazing, and coming back to Lima feels like a warm hug. So thank you guys for being here. I am a brand strategist, and that means I help people position, build, and promote their brands. I've worked with clients. Here we go. I got to point extra far. Is it clicking? Click. Am I doing this wrong? There we go. I've been at this for 11 years. As I said, I was here 5 years ago in Ohio for the first time. This is my second time. Over 300 clients in 33 countries. My last talk before Lima here was right before the pandemic in Cairo. But I still think this is more exotic, okay? This is much more exotic. My clicker's not working very well. There we go. We'll just do our best. Oop. I may need to, hold on, I'm gonna switch to my mouse, which I bring as a backup, which I know sounds funny. Let's see if this works. There we go, look, it's connected, perfect. I'll put my social media handle up there. I'll also, I know it's after lunch, you guys are learning lots today. I went ahead and compiled all of the notes that I'm gonna share with you and teach you. So philpallen.co/SMWL. Let's get to it. My mission today, in the minutes that we spend, less minutes than I usually speak on stage, is to help you overcome this feeling of social media overwhelm. Coming to conferences is amazing. You learn lots, but you also can tend to feel this sense of, wow, there's so much I have to do. And so this idea, this angle today, this idea of stealing my content strategy, I'm reflecting today. I've never delivered this talk before. I'm reflecting on the things that are working for me today, very specifically, so that ideally you can learn, pick up a few things, and if I've done my job, you will leave here today with some very tangible tips on exactly what you can do to implement for yourself and your brand. Let's just spend a few minutes to kick this off. Normally what I talk about on stage is branding. Obviously this is a social media conference, so I have more of a social media angle. Let's spend a few minutes and define what a brand actually is in 2022. A brand is your playground. It's the way you show up. It's the consistency you achieve between two things. The in-person experience, which, by the way, we have the privilege of having today, and don't we appreciate that in a way that we probably didn't used to. It's about achieving consistency between the in-person experience and the online version of ourselves. Very simple. And I have to say, this is like a playground. It's fun. You get to decide the course. You get to decide what you do and how you have fun with this. And yes, it matters what our audience thinks and where our audience is showing up, but it also matters what fulfills you. And I'll talk about that throughout the minutes that we spend together. A brand is your playground. You define what it means to show up, to be on brand. And I'll give you some tips today that will hopefully solidify that. The best brands recreate the in-person experience online. Steps that have worked for me with over 300 clients in over 30 countries and a lot of different industries. My longest client is a shark on Shark Tank, which makes for a very interesting viewing experience on Friday nights. Right up to people with a brand new idea or a new project. My youngest client was, I think, 7 years old on MasterChef Junior, and my oldest client was 84 publishing a book. So I have worked in a lot of different industries, but the process that I have found that works is this. Position your brand. Build something to show for it. So that would include photography, brand identity, website is typically the process where those elements come together. Finally, we stick a for sale sign out front of that house that we've worked hard to position and build. And sometimes people say to me, Phil, what is the #1 mistake you see people make? And I would say, sticking a for sale sign out front of that house before it's ready for market. Right? You stick a for sale sign out front of that house, but if you take a house to market without a roof, you're only going to get a fraction of the value that you deserve. Let's keep going. Phil, when is it time to rebrand? My answer to this question? Rebrand when your brand no longer serves you. If you look at your logo or you look at your colors, your typography, if it feels stale, if it's not something that excites you, it's probably time for an update. Branding, it's an art, but it's also a science. Today, I'll reflect on what some of those steps are, the science part of this, but certainly in this process, obviously today I'm talking more about social media, but branding is the through line in everything that I do and that I share. There is an artistic element to this, and that's why you need to keep those creative people close to you. They're often useful. You should not be designing your own logo if you are not a logo designer. Please, for our sake, don't do it. Lots of talented people out there that can help you. Finally, companies. This is an interesting topic. Personal branding is what I do. It's what I've built my reputation doing for over a decade. But companies are not exempt from this either. In fact, companies have additional pressure on figuring out how to humanize their brands. And there are 3 ways. Your customers, the people buying your products, leadership, the people at the top, founders, CEOs, what's their story? And employees that often get forgotten about when it comes to this, when it comes to marketing. But ideally, building brand advocates from, with the people that are on the inside of the company is hugely, hugely important. Let's keep going. I'm using this playground analogy because I think people take all this stuff way too seriously. And we're having fun today. Time is like recess. It is the limited commodity that everyone is chasing. In 2022, content is an unlimited resource. The limited resource that we are all chasing is time. People's attention span on you. I know it can often feel overwhelming, right? We feel this pressure that we need to be everywhere. I'm here today to remind you that that is not the case. Just because someone you learn about or someone you see is having huge success in your industry or not in your industry on one platform does not necessarily mean you need to be there too. Not all of us are Gary Vee with an entire team of social media production following us around, documenting our every move. A lot of times we are showing up on social media while running one or sometimes more than one business. And so let me walk through my framework. Now we're going to get into the tangible stuff, and I got a lot to get through, so I'm going to hurl it at your head. Buckle up that seatbelt, because we're going to go through. I'm going to tell you exactly how I help someone, or even decide myself, which platforms are important for me. Let's start with parameters. There are 2. Time, the limited resource we're all chasing, and business goals. Branding is how I do what I do, but branding for me is not about making something look pretty. Branding is my toolkit to essentially manifest or bring someone's business goals to life. That's how I do it. So in order for you to have success or even measure success, you need to be crystal clear on how much time you have to show up on the internet, how much time do you have to create and put time into engaging, etc., and what are your business goals? Keep those 2 things in mind. Let's keep going. Next are priorities. We need to prioritize you. And I guess this is a bit controversial to say in 2022 because yes, we want to focus on them, your audience, where they're showing up. But in 2022, this is not the time to just choose a platform because your audience is there. Your audience is everywhere now. And so I recommend actually giving weight in this decision to where you enjoy creating, where you enjoy being. I would say that's almost more important than where your audience is. Oh gosh, platforms. Where do we even begin? I need a whole slide for these. And this is only a fraction of them. If overwhelm hasn't set in yet, it will. You don't need to be on all of these platforms. Even for me, social media is a part of what I do and what I offer clients. Even I can't be on all of these platforms. Some of these that I don't have time, based on my 3 Ps, if I don't have time to be there, I'll delegate them or I'll scale back on them. I decide where I show up based on where impact is greatest. Rather than being average on 10 platforms, be a rock star on 3, or better yet, I think I would have given that advice 5 years ago when I was here in Lima. Better yet, I'd say nowadays, be a superstar on 1. Your parameters are time and business goals. Let's review. Prioritize you. Where do you enjoy creating while prioritizing your audience? Where do they enjoy being? You don't need to be everywhere. I just said that. Instead of being average on 10 platforms, be a rock star on 3 or be a superstar on 1. That's my advice. Now take a deep breath and sigh. Okay, I know. So now let's get into some platform-specific advice. The name of this talk is Steal My Content Strategy. I've tweaked this. I've spent a lot of time alone in Airbnbs around the world while the pandemic was happening. I was not in the US at the time that it happened, so I ended up staying in Mexico for an entire year. And I had lots of time not spent on airplanes that I was used to, thinking about what my next move was. And while the pandemic didn't necessarily impact my business, it did shake all of us into remembering that things can happen in life that we can't control, right? And it's a good idea to diversify the different ways that you build your brand or the different ways that you make money. What I want to teach you with Instagram is my content strategy, how I decide to show up, where I show up. I'd say that Instagram is made up of different apparatuses, let's say, different features, and I'll run through each of them, talk about where there is some value and merit in you showing up on each of those. And we're going to do this fast. Let's start with your feed. This is what Instagram is known for, how it started. Certainly it's evolving or has evolved into a video app. Some people love that, some people hate it. But feed is really your opportunity to teach us something. Show up in a way that's valuable for others. So even if you're posting on Instagram, on your Instagram feed, photo or video, an update, something exciting that's happening in your world, think for a second, how can this be valuable for someone consuming this? Not just about me, but also about them. So I was in the Daily Mail talking about some celebrity thing, and I thought, wait a second, no one actually cares about that but me. So why don't I take this opportunity to share the advice that I gave the Daily Mail to my audience and give them 3 quick actionable takeaways so that people could actually read this and take away something from it. That took about 30 extra seconds. I love creating carousels on Instagram because it doesn't require my face or my voice. I can sit in my preferred online graphic design tool, which is Adobe Express. I can sit there and design something and teach something valuable for someone. This is an example of a post of mine that did really well. I don't know why I'm staring at this one when I have it right in front of here. It's incredible how far your content can go when you create something that is useful for someone. It might be second nature to you, but I'm telling you, people don't experience what you experience day to day. What might be everyday and mundane for you is really exciting for someone else. And I encourage you to share that. Instagram feed is a great place to put that. Instagram stories. If any of you know me or we connected a few years ago and we've kept on each other's radars, you know that I have fun on Instagram stories, particularly while I travel around the world. I'm going to give an example that's not me this time, though. This is my client, Julie, of Paley OMG, who I think uses stories better than any other creator that I know. So if you need an example of someone who does this well, she would be that example. Obviously, your stories expire after 24 hours unless you save them as a highlight. Your stories don't have to be fancy. They don't have to be produced. It's more about being in the moment. Now people care less than ever before about perfect production, the perfect aesthetic. Instagram Live. Personally, my favorite vertical of Instagram, yet this is the one people create the least amount on. If there's one piece of advice that I leave with you today that you continue to think about after I leave this stage, I want it to be this. Your social media strategy should be selfish. Everything that you put energy into creating, I want it to be almost better for you than it is for your audience. And I'll give an example. Instagram Live is my favorite way to create video content because I don't have to worry about cameras, fancy microphones, perfect lighting, all this other nonsense that sometimes prevents us from hitting record. This was an Instagram Live that I did recently with Adobe, but there's a story here. I decided at the beginning of last year, half an hour every Wednesday, I would just go live on Instagram. Sometimes I'd have a guest. Sometimes I would go into it with a few bullet points to talk about a topic that I thought people might find interesting. It was from going live on Instagram that someone caught my broadcast, invited me to join the ambassadorship with Adobe, which is now my #1 paid brand collaboration. All from creating content on Instagram Live. You can save that video the minute it ends. You can repurpose that on your feed. You can repurpose that on other short forms of content, YouTube Shorts, TikTok, Instagram Reels. It's really, really incredible. More importantly than any of that, going live on Instagram can help you become a better communicator. It can sharpen your media skills or your presentation skills, which is going to make you better on client calls or communicating with customers. The final group on Instagram is Reels and more. That's what I'm calling it because, of course, they're always coming out with new and improved and exciting features that are copying TikTok. Oop, did I say that out loud? I'm not a huge creator on Reels. I'm trying to embrace it. I will in the next few weeks, finally. But a great example, again, I want to give you examples that are not just me in this presentation. My friend Lucas O'Keefe, who grew his Instagram account from 0 to 230,000 in a year and a half, sharing advice, teaching, and that kind of thing, without dancing or lip syncing every single time. If those things don't excite you like they don't excite me, don't worry. There's other ways to use these platforms. Reels is still the fastest way to grow on Instagram right now, today. So I want to give you a little template because I'm trying to make your life easier. I'm trying to, approach this from the standpoint of if you feel overwhelm, let's try and get over that. This is a template I made for you. A lot of people don't know that you can actually share media from camera roll that you could design in Adobe Express or another platform. You save an image formatted for vertical video on your camera roll. Make sure it's the most recent photo in your camera roll before you go live on Instagram. There's a little icon that allows you to share media on screen. This helps you guide the conversation or be able to reference visuals. When you share media from camera roll, your own camera will be shrunken and put up in the top right corner like you see in this example. That is a graphic that I created very quickly, and I'm sharing with you the template for that so you can also go and create quickly. It's at that link in the bottom right. Let's keep going. Let's actually review really quick. Feed shares your knowledge and your perspective. Stories connects you with your audience. Live, my favorite vertical on Instagram, efficiently creates content to repurpose, and it sharpens your presentation skills. Let's make this about you. Video is pretty much covered when you go live routinely. Reels and more are definitely worth experimenting with to see what you like creating and what your audience likes consuming. That's Instagram, which is not my favorite social media platform, but I find it to be an important one for me to show up to continue to connect with my audience. My favorite one is next. YouTube, using the playground analogy, is a swing set. It takes a little while for most creators to get some momentum, but once you get that momentum, it becomes irresistible. The talk is called Steal My Content Strategy, so I am literally going to walk through exactly what I do to create a YouTube video, and I want you to steal this, if this is a platform you feel like you should be on. These are my steps. There are 5 of them. The first thing I do is research. Research for me takes about 15 minutes. I want to see what already exists on a topic that people are likely typing into search. I don't even need a tool. I can use autofill after I type in a keyword related to my industry. Autofill is telling me for free what people are actually typing into the search bar. So this right away will give you ideas on what you might be able to create that people are actually looking for. Now, if you want an additional tool, there are additional tools. I am a big fan of Keyword Explorer and TubeBuddy. I type in my keyword there. It will tell me very specifically how this topic is going to rank or perform on my channel. And if it's too general, it's going to give me a low score, but it's also going to give me suggestions. Personal branding for real estate agents. That's a 92 out of 100 score. Love it. That's probably a video that I should create. Let's keep going. Once I have a topic in mind, and this is what works for me, I write a script. I script every video that I create. And this is not necessarily what you need to go and do, but after creating 185 YouTube videos in the last 2.5 years, posting twice a week without fail, I find that taking the time to organize my thoughts and ideas up front cuts down on the time it takes in production. I don't have to stop and start a million times. Doesn't increase the time for my editor, who would have to go through multiple takes. By taking, typically it's between half an hour to an hour for me to write a script on a video, have 3 to 5 bullet points that I want to teach, and then pull all the graphics that I would reference on screen. Takes me about half an hour to an hour, depending on how technical it is. Okay, so that's step 2. I write a script. You don't necessarily need to if you're not comfortable doing that. If you prefer to free flow your ideas, maybe create a few bullet points, keep them on your lap. YouTube, the jump cut is embraced, so you can look down on your lap, get your points, deliver it to the camera, look down, rinse and repeat. So once I write a script, the easiest part of the creation process that actually people get hung up on the most is filming it. Your first few videos, you'll probably cringe, how you look, how you sound. We get it, but you have to get over it. For me, I script it, again, because I'm able to now, with some practice, do these in one take. I use my iPad, I use a little teleprompter app, and I put my script up there, stare at the camera, read it, and it will end up looking like something like this. Now, I don't edit my own videos because I don't want to stare at my face for that long, and I find that having a second set of eyes really helps. My editor is able to look and say, hey, did you mean to do this? I'm like, oops, nope. And just having a second set of eyes is really helpful on that process. Now, the final stage that people often rush, and is probably the most important in this process, is posting your YouTube video. This involves a thumbnail that is almost more important than the video itself, and also adding in some of those keywords that we researched, and maybe a few others in the title and in the description. Again, my favorite tool for designing a YouTube thumbnail from a template so it's faster is Adobe Express. You may use Adobe Express, you may use other online graphic design tools. Again, to keep your life simple, I'm a huge fan of starting from templates. It's got templates, it's got quick actions that make my life simple. So from removing a background or converting an image to a PDF, all kinds of things that we might often do, but you're not sure how to do, you can do them there. You can also set up your brand so you've got your font and your colors readily accessible. All of that is made easy. So for YouTube videos, here's what we need to do. Research your title to create something people need. Write a script if you plan to read it, or plan talking points if you want to ad-lib. After making 185 YouTube videos in the last 2 years, I found that 3 to 5 bullet points or takeaways are all you need for a roughly 10-minute long video. You can also, well, I should say, film it without overthinking. Don't get hung up on your hair, your makeup, your lighting. Just do it. Know that your first few videos will suck, and then they'll just keep getting better, and that's the good news. Edit your video if you have time. If you don't, outsource it to get a second set of eyes on that. And then post an eye-catching thumbnail. Don't rush that process. Don't save it till the last minute, because a lot of times that ends up being the most important thing you'll do. And then, of course, scheduling content ahead, batch creating. I won't spend a lot of time talking about that because I'm sure you've already received advice on that, but I'm a big fan. Schedule ahead, batch create, get in the zone, get it done, and do as much as you can in the amount of time that you have. Okay, so I have just a few minutes left. I'm going to go through this very quickly. Let's talk about LinkedIn. I'm going to focus on a few things related to branding, since that's what I do and that's my language. These are quick fixes or quick actions that you can take today to make your LinkedIn profile even better. Every LinkedIn profile should have a clear goal or a clear purpose. Why are you on the platform? What is the point of you being there? What do you expect to get in return? A LinkedIn profile is not a resume. I would go so far as to actually say, in your opening paragraph on your profile, tell us what you're looking for. I am looking for people and companies that would like to rebrand. Here is my email address. Be very forward in 2022. Don't dance around it. Tell us exactly what you want. Be very clear on your goal or your purpose. Strong photos. I remember it like it was yesterday, standing on this stage, giving you the advice that your profile photo cannot be 5 to 10 years old. It's like wearing pajamas to a wedding. It's irresponsible in 2022. Good branding means recreating the in-person experience online. The effort you put into your photography matters. Ideally, your photos show us you in action. Your cover, you've got 2 photo opportunities here. I love for cover photos to give us more than just a second photo of you. Maybe you've got media appearances you can put the logos on. Maybe it's a photo of you on stage delivering a keynote. Whatever it is, show us you in your environment and give us more than just a second angle. Headline. People give different advice on this. I'm a big fan of making sure you've got a few keywords related to your industry or job title in your headline. About in featured sections, LinkedIn has really improved more recently what we can have here in terms of multimedia, visuals, images, and actually video. Don't give us an autobiography in your about page. No one wants to read it. Bullet points or quick, short paragraphs are best. Experience and recommendations, my favorite sections on a LinkedIn profile. If someone gives you a testimonial, you finish a project and they say, wow, I absolutely loved working with you, say, thank you, but wait. Instead of just flinging a compliment at my head, can you take 2 seconds to go to LinkedIn right now and leave it as a recommendation on my profile? It's the first place, insert blank, for me, conference organizers go, to look at someone before they hire them. So I have almost 100 recommendations on my LinkedIn profile, and it is the first place that I send a conference organizer to look, because they're not testimonials that I can make up myself and put on my website. Who's guilty of that? You can't fake a LinkedIn recommendation, so it is a great, great way to have social proof that you are, in fact, awesome. Trying very hard to stay on time. I did pack my notes, which are 3 or 4 pages long, with some more advice in there sprinkled in. My mission of standing on this stage today, other than to see your beautiful faces and be here for this amazing energy that Jessica is so famous for creating, yes. My mission is to leave you with a few actionable takeaways that hopefully make you feel a little less overwhelmed. Have I achieved that? Wonderful. Then I have done my job. What a pleasure it's been to spend a few minutes with you. Thank you for your hospitality here in beautiful Lima.